All right. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. um just going to be drawing this Venom today. Been working on this for not too long. It's been a little bit slow, but it's mainly because I'm working on a new process um that I don't normally work in, but I like it a lot, and it's a lot faster than my usual process, so having a lot of fun with it. But yeah, just basically gonna stream this, just work on it, see how much I can get done until I feel tired, basically. Um, yeah, that's about it. So I'm just gonna get to work. And I'm gonna change this. Okay, cool. I want to change this finger. It's a very small thumb. I kind of like it, so I think I'm gonna leave it. Let's see what happens. I might change it later. Jackson, hey, welcome to the stream. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Coming to hang while I work. Nice. What are you working on? That's awesome, dude. One more panel. Almost there. That's awesome. You're kind of living the dream. I very much would like to work on a comic book one day. I'm glad you're getting that done, because that's a huge undertaking. It's a lot of time, a lot of patience, and I'd like to believe that I have both of those, enough of both of those things to make a comic book, but at the moment you can see it's probably not the case. I should probably also show you what I'm working on. So this Venom here, I can full screen that. Basically, been working on this for not super long. I'd say day and a half. Trying out a new process that I don't normally use. It's a lot faster, and I really like it. It kind of blends inking and painting together. It's kind of like an ink wash process in a way, which is kind of like my preferred way to make stuff right now. I just like the versatility and the sort of like the washy paint effect of it, but also like, you know, if you press hard enough, you can get these really really dark spots. So yeah, let's see. It's been a lot of work, but it's really fun. We have a lot of story ideas we're kicking around for the future. If funding goes well, I'll for sure send along your work to the team. I appreciate that. The anatomy on this is sick, by the way. Thank you. Yes, this this whole thing spawned essentially because I've seen a lot of people do like Venom redesigns, and a lot of them kind of look the same, and it feels like they're not really taking advantage of the fact that it's a redesign, and so they can, you know, kind of go wild at some of the concepts or the proportions, or just any of the ideas they have. Not to say that mine is like a completely unique take on Venom by any means, but I just wanted to experiment and see if there was something different I could do with it besides just tweaking his, you know, like proportions or making him slightly less buff, you know. I wanted to see if there was anything I could add to the conversation that is Venom redesigns. So I just went back to the H.R. Geiger roots. You know, I'm sure everybody knows by now, but if you don't, Venom is basically just Marvel's response to the Alien movie. When it dropped, they saw the Xenomorph and they were like, hey, we need one of those. And so they made Venom. And that's why, if you kind of look at Venom and the original Xenomorph's design, it's very similar. So I did some digging, looked at like the Xenomorph designs and all that stuff. I just wanted to do a more like sort of gross anatomic Venom, if that makes sense. Like, I realized that the spider logo on his chest is essentially the sort of like collarbone going into the chest. I forgot what the name of this bone, so don't judge me. But then, you know, it goes into the rib cage. That whole shape is essentially the spider logo that you see on Venom. And so I figured instead of drawing the spider logo, I would just sort of bring out the bone structure a little bit more, even to the, extent here where the bones are literally on the outside. Yeah. Is it the most unique Venom design? No. Do I plan to do more drawings of Venom to see if I can push the design further? Yes. So this won't be the last one. I definitely, after working on this, had some crazier ideas that I want to explore. I am a fan of the teeth that I did, though. I like the saber tooth kind of teeth and the way they're all sort of moving in different directions a little bit, yeah. So I'm just going to keep working on this. Basically, just going to paint until I don't feel like it anymore. So probably be here for at least an hour. Yeah, sorry for going on a tangent. I realize I'm probably rambling. I should probably just get back to drawing. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Yeah, process questions, other art questions, life questions. Feel free to ask. I'm just chilling. And I would love to actually answer some questions since I don't really get to do that often. I'm just kind of in my room drawing. It's going to be an interesting thing to figure out. Okay, sounds good, Jackson. And again, I appreciate you even stopping by. I don't know how I feel about this thumb yet. One thing I'm also looking to play with is the sort of asymmetry or inconsistency in his design. He has a really small thumb over here, and at first I thought that was kind of a bad thing, but I realized that, like, if you're an alien, I mean, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that bad. And it's kind of weird. It's supposed to be sort of, strange and weird and gross in a way. So this thumb is a lot longer than his other one. Jackson, I'm curious actually, what have you found is the hardest part of doing comic book work? Like for you personally? Definitely timing and storytelling. I've only ever worked on character designs or single illustrations, so considering time moving through my art is really new to me. Also, figuring out panel layouts. Gotcha, gotcha. That makes sense. That's something that I feel like I need work on too, or at least practice with. Um, I love comic books, and that's kind of where my main love of art came from. Um, but I kind of, found interest in character design and illustration, and I've always had this envy of like comic book art because it conveys motion so well, even in just a single image. Because obviously there's like panels, but just in a single image, they're able to convey so much motion. And I feel like in the character design world, because it's more about showing off the design, unless you're doing like a pose sheet, you're very limited because you want to do a pose that maybe fits the character more, or it's more dynamic and more interesting, but then the design isn't fully clear. And Jackson, you already know. When you're doing character design, you're not designing for yourself, and you're not just designing for the art director or the director or whoever's above you. You're designing also for the 3D artists in most cases, or whoever's going to take that design and turn it into a real thing or something that you can play as. So you can't just throw them in any kind of pose you want, because you have to be mindful of the fact that this has to be translated into something else later. Um, so a lot of times I feel like I'm restricted, and I'm sure you've probably felt it too. Restricted to certain poses, or just limited in a certain way because it doesn't necessarily the design isn't exactly just yours. You can't just illustrate it. You're creating it for a different type of purpose. I'm glad you know what I mean. Yeah, but more lately I've been trying to incorporate more like motion, or just action in my work. was just, you know, looking at a lot of my favorite artists and just seeing like how, you know, what are the common factors between like all of them that, you know, create this sort of dynamic look in all their pieces, or, you know, what are the patterns between them. And I recently stumbled upon most of the old Capcom art books at the last convention I went to, and I swiftly purchased them because I've been looking for those for a long time. Who are your favorite artists these days? First person that comes to mind is Dave Raposa. He is a fantastic illustrator, and his work has sort of been ingrained into my head. No matter how many new artists I see, I feel like there's always more to learn from him. And I feel like he kind of evokes this sort of vibe in his paintings. Oh, you know Dave. Okay, good. Yeah. His all of his work has this vibe. It kind of reminds me of like those illustrations you would see as a kid, you know, of like all these characters or this like world. And it was like, oh man, that's so cool. It's like you wanted to draw that, but you didn't have nearly the same amount of skill. But it captured that sort of feeling of being in like a world or a space. And it feeling like lived in, you know, it was like a moment. You know, it's the kind of work that like you would want to make as a kid, and you couldn't because, you know, that takes an insane amount of skill, but that was like the thing you were shooting for. That's kind of the vibe his work gives me. So I would say Dave is definitely like at the top or near the top. Who else? I don't know how to pronounce his first name. I just call him Maddie, because I think he goes by like that nickname too. But Maddie Bergara. I'm probably butchering his name, but his work is super experimental, but his shapes, his compositions, just super dynamic, and I feel like he knows how to capture the perfect vibe for each character that he draws, no matter who it is. And I kind of aspire to that. I want to be able to like take a character, draw them, and it immediately like just feels like that's a pose that the character is supposed to be in, or this is a scenario that I imagine the character in, and it's just got the right kind of vibes. So he's definitely up there, and I appreciate these sort of like experimental nature of his like art page, where he clearly has a style, but he's not afraid to venture out and use different mediums and try different ways of like composing images and all those things. That's something that I really appreciate because I like to do the same thing as well. I feel like I don't have an art style per se, and it's mainly because I feel like different art styles suit different pieces, and I'm the kind of person to prioritize, you know, making the art style fit the piece as opposed to making the piece fit my art style, if that makes sense. Just seeing someone's work like Maddie really inspires me to continue to just, not necessarily worry about art style too much. And just focus on making cool images and finding whatever way to get across the kind of vibe or emotion I'm going for. In any way, except for using AI, of course. That's not going to happen. Who's your favorite artist? Or some of your favorite artists, Jackson? I think these fingers are missing wrinkles. Kirk, good to see you. Can always expect a dramatic entrance from you. I'm not going to read your comment out loud, but thanks for coming. Shifts around so much, but I've really been liking Tooth Woo recently. Detail shapes are great. Tooth Woo. I want to see who that is. I've never heard of them before. Give me 1 second. Is this person on Instagram? I'm assuming they are. Leave this zoomed out while I search up this artist. Tooth Woo. Okay, I see them. Wow. These are really sick. It's very versatile with his art style too. I like it a lot. Very dynamic. It's really cool. I can see the influence, and I mean that in like a really good way. Like, that's really cool. Interesting. Okay, back to that's what she said. Okay. How's your what's the time difference? Day going now, Kirk? I would say night, just because I know. I mean, you're awake and it's like really late, but it's technically the AM now, I believe. Mm. That cat cast shadow work? Oh, my laptop's about to die. That's fantastic. Should have been paying attention to that. Stream might have been lagging and I wouldn't have known. Okay. Let's get some cast shadow here. Maybe some light peeking through from this side. So has the comic book been taking up all of your time, Jackson? I imagine it would be hard to do anything else art related and a comic book at the same time. If you are able to multitask with that, I commend you. Because I don't think I could do that. Yeah, I get that. Card game. That's so you got a card game and then you got a comic book. Those are two things that take a lot of concentration. Not that like other things don't, but I mean card games, that's illustration, which is tough. Not all the time, but for card games, that can be tough. And then you've got a comic book, which I mean needs no explanation. That's just tough. One thing I really like about this brush and the sort of ink washy nature of it is that I can kind of just sculpt shapes out. In this stage and not worry too much about like, oh, I've gotten so far, I've already painted over this spot, like, and I want to add something. It's very easy to do it. And I'm using the same type of brush to erase as well. It's just very smooth. Very easy to make tweaks. if your uh, time suddenly freed up, Jackson, what would be like the first thing that you would want to draw or work on if you suddenly got some free time to draw? And Kirk, if you're still here, I asked how your day was going. Not gonna leave you hanging, buddy. Hmm. Probably fan art or just studies. I played the game Expedition 33 at the start of summer and loved it, but I haven't had time to do any art related to it. Gotcha. Expedition 33. I've seen like one screenshot or like thumbnail of it, but I have no idea what it's about. But I've heard people talking about it. I just feel like I'm so out of the loop. It's one of those things where I feel like I should know about it, but I don't. But yeah, fan art, that's understandable. I mean, technically, what I'm doing, you could consider fan art. I think redesigns, at least in the entertainment art industry, it still falls under the umbrella of fan art. If you're good enough, I guess they'll consider it just an illustration, but in most cases, it's just fan art to most people. It's a turn-based RPG from a pretty small new studio. Was very surprised how solid it was. Interesting. Me personally, it's hard for me to get into turn-based RPGs. I've only played like one in my life, and it wasn't even like a relatively new game. It was part of the Sega Classics collection, and it's called Shining Force. And something about it just kind of hooked me. I'm guessing, I'm probably gonna say it was the music. I like RPGs. Turn-based RPGs sometimes lose me a little bit. I'm the same way. This was probably my first since Pokemon as a kid. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Hmm. Feeling these wrinkles on a thumb here. I'll definitely look at some clips of Expedition 33 though. Definitely want to check it out. I've like the past couple of years, or like well, I'd say 2 or 3 years ago, something kind of clicked in my brain, and I started getting into more like indie games. It's not that I hadn't known about them or even cared, but it was just kind of like I was so used to playing, the standard AAA games, Call of Duty, mostly Call of Duty now that I think about it. But I just liked playing AAA games just because those are the only things I knew, and they were familiar. It was kind of like a no-brainer. but I played Journey for the first time a couple years ago, and it kind of changed my perspective on just trying out really anything indie, even if it's not a game. Um, so even if there's a game that I'm not necessarily like used to playing or a genre I'm not used to playing, I will now go and just look at it, research it, give it, give it a fair chance. At least as far as like reviewing it, before I automatically write it off as something I wouldn't play. Because I found some cool games that way. So I'll definitely check out Expedition 33 just to see what all the fuss is about. Feeling better about that. Thumb. Is it perfect? No. Probably gonna come back and change some things. But for now, it's decent enough. I'm also struggling with, or not struggling, but just trying to keep in mind how much detail I want to put into some of the shadows. Hmm. Hmm. Give me 1 second. Gonna be right back. Just gonna. Okay, and we're back. It was getting dark in my room, and I needed to turn the lights off. Yeah, I'd streamed once, like I don't know how long ago it's been, but that went really well. And then I tried to stream again, and then I had some technical difficulties, and the stream kept crashing, so I stopped. And I just said I would wait till I figured it all out before I tried to stream again. So yeah, that's why I'm back. I figured it all out, and I think it's all good now. But I'm drawing like most of the day, every day, and I figured it just makes sense to stream. Like, not only does it give me an opportunity to just archive my work, my process, and all that, but it also gives me a chance to, interact with people, talk live with them, discuss things, connect my audience a little bit more, considering I'm kind of just holed up in my room working away at stuff. It's a nice way to not gatekeep my process and my work and all that. It's not that I'm trying to, but I kind of just, I'm so locked in when I'm working that I forget to like record myself painting. Like, I have the time lapses and stuff, but it can be a little annoying having to like edit them and all that stuff, because I have a tendency to like work kind of messy and make a ton of drawings in one file and then go, oh, this would be nice for like a full piece, and then I have to separate them, and it makes the time lapse look all weird because it's like different files being copied and pasted all over the place. It would make more sense if you saw it, but essentially what I'm saying is I'm lazy and I don't want to record and edit my process right now because I'm not a content creator. So I figured if I can just set up streaming, then all I have to do is press a button, go live, and I can just sit here and draw, which is what I'm already doing anyway, so. It's easy. Ideally, this is where I would move on to the next step. It's not colors, but I'll show you in a minute how I would essentially move on from this step. I'll also show you the beginning, the first steps, because I kind of started streaming when I had already worked a decent amount on this. And realistically, I don't think I've gotten that far on it since I started streaming, but one of the downsides, I think, of streaming is that you have to get over the learning curve of like talking and drawing at the same time. And I can. It's just one is going to be slower than the other if I try to do both at the same time. And usually it's the drawing that suffers. Whereas I start drawing a lot slower. But it's cool. It's just a practice thing. getting close to the point where I would move on to the next step, which is an optional step, to be honest. I just think it's necessary in this case. Before I get there, I just want to work out some of these kinks, add a few more details in some of these areas. Basically just trying to give myself as little work as possible for later. I know there's going to be a decent amount of cleanup that I'll have to do, but trying to eliminate some of that now. Another thing I took as inspiration from a lot of the Geiger work, the alien designs and stuff, is just, I guess you'd say, just how gross it is. Like, it's supposed to be unsettling. And that was kind of the thing I'm shooting for. It's like, on top of just attempting to make a design that feels a little bit more unique when it comes to Venom redesigns, I wanted to do something that felt unsettling in the same way that an H.R. Geiger piece would. Not necessarily to the same extent, but in the vein of that, the same thing. So, you can see that Venom has like a bunch of bumps on his tongue, and that's, I'm sort of killing two birds with one stone. One, I'm just trying to add texture, because I don't want this to seem like, I don't want the painting to seem smooth. Digital stuff has a tendency to look very artificial in that way, where it's like you have to kind of fight against the program to get texture in there. And I'm a sucker for like cool textures and paintings and everything, so I'm trying to override the program by adding textures, a lot of textures. So I'm adding these bumps and stuff, just so that no part of the painting itself, even without like digital texture brushes on top and everything, trying to make sure in and of itself it feels textured. So then when I add extra textures on top, it feels even more textured, basically. So yeah, that's the first thing, and then two, it's just, it's kind of gross, so it kind of succeeds in giving off that vibe that I'm going for. I'm essentially trying to make a Venom that you don't want to be around, and a Venom that you don't want to be, essentially. Because I know that there's a lot of people out there who think it would be kind of cool to have the symbiote. I'm trying to design a Venom that you wouldn't want to be, or a symbiote that you wouldn't want to have as a companion, because it looks like it's more trouble than it's worth. one thing that I need to keep in mind for the next painting I do is when it comes to the textures, in this case the bumps, I should probably plan them out a little bit more beforehand, because I can't remember how many of the bumps I actually sketched in, or if that was something that I added after, but it helps to do that stuff in the earliest stage possible, because then you can determine if you have too many or too little, if they're in the right place or not. Because I am also thinking of like the fact that there does need to be a sort of like place for the eyes to rest, and the tongue could serve as that spot leading up into the face, which means that it would have to be relatively smooth and have less details and textures in order to achieve that, but I don't know if that's what I want to do. I also realized that these three bumps are all kind of like lined up, and I don't like that. Gotta run. I have a meeting in a few. Glad I could pop in for a bit. Have a good weekend. Thanks so much for stopping by, Jackson. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you can, pop in for more. But yeah, good luck with the meeting. And you have a good weekend as well. Let's move that there. That doesn't look better. Put that further in there. Put that, make a triangle. Nice tongue is crazy. Appreciate it. Liar? Oh. I just put it together. Good to see you. Thanks for popping in. Yeah, I don't know how long you've been listening, but let me stop. I'm essentially doing a Venom redesign. That is the short version of it. Doing a Venom redesign, just trying to see how far I can push the like Geiger influence, or just sort of like if there's a slider, I'm just trying to bump it up, and return Venom back to his xenomorph roots. Yes, crazy amount of detail in the shading. It is indeed. I am experimenting with a new process that I'm really liking so far. It's this brush that I've named Ink Paint. Very creative name. You hate the ribs so much. Great job. Thank you. Yes, that was intentional. I realized that if you look at the Venom like spider logo or whatever, I'm probably like butchering this. I think something like that. It essentially is just the collarbone leading down into the rib cage. And it also looks like a face hugger. So I just said, okay, well, instead of making the spider logo, why not just bring out the bone structure a little bit more and put the ribs on the outside, because it's weird and it's cool, but mostly weird. So yeah, just trying to make an HR Geiger Venom essentially. Gave him saber-toothed teeth because nobody ever really changes his teeth. Yes, but this brush, yeah, it's kind of like an ink wash. It's kind of the way it works, and so you just you can layer it with like different amounts of pressure. So I get a lot of like different tones, and I can control the value range a lot. I basically have full control over it. But if I just press really hard, I get a really nice inking brush for dark spots, or if I just want to like make a full piece that's like just inked, like in more traditional way, like with a ink brush in real life. So I've been using this and tweaking it, but I really like it so far because I mean I can get all these different tones, and I can sculpt essentially the forms, and it makes the rest of the quote unquote painting really easy. Yes, yes. Brush is working well. Glad you like the design. And yes, sculpting. That's what it feels like, and I really, really like that. Because I kind of go back and forth between really liking painting and really liking inking, and this is a nice in between for me, where I can sculpt and get these like really nice values in certain places where I feel like it just needs it, because that's sort of the painter's urge that I get whenever I make something that's like mostly just inked and it's like harsh blacks. I feel that urge to just like paint it in and add some midtones and stuff. But if I want to do something that's just fully sort of like regularly inked, I can do it this way as well. But in all of that, I just have full value, like full control of the value, so it feels like sculpting, and I love it. It's the best of both worlds for me. Have you been working on any artwork? I've been streaming for an hour. That's awesome. Not quite. Today is mostly dying to every monster in Monster Hunter. I am a scrub. Okay, I get you. I get you. I'm sad to say that I've never played Monster Hunter. I've purchased Monster Hunter for my brother, but I have never actually played it. Is it because I'm afraid of being bad? Maybe. I won't confirm or deny that, but I definitely want to play. I don't think a lot of people know, but like I'm not a horror fan per se, but I really like monsters. Like I really like monsters, like designs. And just like a good monster story. Frankenstein, The Thing is my favorite horror movie. The Fly, even though I can't watch the movie, I just can't stand to watch it. It's kind of a hard watch, but the way they were able to convey that sort of uncomfortable feeling and the sort of like tragic nature of what had happened to the guy, it's just so cool to me. Punishing as far as games go. Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. really enjoyed playing games and being inspired by things. Yes, yes, I definitely want more. I feel like you can never have enough, or never take enough inspiration from the thing. It's just such an effective movie in so many different ways, and I feel like if anybody is ever wondering like what's a good way to sort of go about doing horror or suspense or just evoking that uncomfortable feeling, it's like The Thing is like what I would point to, and The Fly, even more so for the uncomfortableness. But yeah, punishing games. Now, I can't. If I were to say that I don't like games that are punishing or punish you, I'd be lying. I get a little bit like not competitive, but I like challenging games. I like challenges just in general. So the fact that the game is challenging is exciting to me, but I think I've experienced some fatigue with challenging games after God of War Ragnarok and attempting to play Black Myth Wukong. And seeing just how draining it is to fight certain bosses. It took a toll on me. And I play every game like it's, like this like super serious thing. And I try to go for like the hardest challenges and the platinum trophy and speed runs sometimes or whatever if I can. So I think it's partially my fault, but I think I'm just experiencing a bit of fatigue when it comes to like challenging games. So I very much like to play Monster Hunter because it's a challenging game and because, from a design standpoint, it seems really interesting. But I'm not looking forward to dying a lot. Kind of just want to turn off my brain and enjoy my monster game. It's also why I haven't played Final Fantasy 16 yet, or Rebirth, despite owning both of those games. Battlefield 6 beta. I didn't even know that was out. I didn't even know there was a Battlefield 6. Red empty pew pew. Need a break between the super sweaty stuff. Yep, totally understand. Nice thing is Monster Hunter only gets better over time as more content releases over the year. Okay. I think my brother still has Monster Hunter. I forgot which one it is. But I mean, it's a good place to start, and it's also, correct me if I'm wrong, but Capcom was in charge of Monster Hunter, right? If that's true, if Capcom is in charge of, if you can confirm that for me, if Capcom is in charge of Monster Hunter, then I will definitely be playing it at some point because I'm a bit of a Capcom fanatic. Yeah, Capcom, you can actually play SK. Oh, say no more. I will definitely be playing Akuma. I can play as Akuma in the latest Monster Hunter. Okay. That has done more to convince me to play the game than anything else. No amount of advertising is going to top the fact that you just told me I can play as Akuma in Monster Hunter. Okay. So I will be playing that. as soon as I get some free time or make some free time. Kirk, welcome back. I asked you how your day was going, but you were gone, so I'm gonna ask you again. How is your day going, or how was your day? Considering you are a fair amount of hours ahead of me, so I know it's like 2 a.m. I'm guessing it's like 2. Oh, I'm editing. Okay. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram edit. Correct. Okay. Cool. Good to know. What exactly are we editing? But Akuma and Monster Hunter. I will definitely be playing that. But yeah, what are you editing? If you don't mind me asking, if it's not NDA, I can show you the works at some point whenever I can get you over. But yeah, just wanted to stop by. Ven Alien. I like that name, Ven Alien. The only other like name I had was like Symbomorph or something like that, like Symbiomorph. I think Ven Alien might be better. Insta/TikTok, but it's a video I've had sitting for a week. Gotcha. Well, I'm glad you're getting to it. That continuously, you know, is the hardest part of it. It's just starting the thing. But once you do get starting, kind of snowballs. So I'm glad whenever I hear someone say they like started a thing that they've been meaning to do. I like where you're thinking too. Sounds more scientific. Yeah, that's what I was going for. Gonna brainstorm it a little bit more. I mean, obviously, I'm like nowhere near done. Actually, that's not entirely true. But I've got time to brainstorm some more funky names. But Ven Alien, I do kind of like that. And Kirk, at some point, we've got a talk. I wanted to tell you just some of the social media stuff that I've been kind of figuring out when it comes to posting on like TikTok versus Instagram and even Twitter, even though I'm sure you have like no interest in Twitter, or at least posting on there, which I completely understand. Alien. Maybe. Alright, gonna head out. Good luck. Thank you so much for stopping by. Really appreciate it. And I'll definitely catch you later. Definitely want to talk more about Monster Hunter. And yeah, I'm generally free. So yeah, I can definitely visit and see Monster Hunter in person at some point. We'll talk. Good luck on the Monster Hunter. But yeah, Kirk, I've been keeping like not track per se, but I've been making notes of like the sort of things I've noticed that are working versus not working. And just compiling all the research that I've been doing regarding the social media. experiment that I was doing. So at some point, we should talk about it because I think it's beneficial to both of us. Yes, yes, you can absolutely compare notes because I definitely want to see what you have to say and what your experience has been, or like some of the things you've noticed have worked better. Because I've definitely discovered some stuff. Um, some of it was like it feels obvious in a way, like duh, yeah, of course that works better than this thing, but it wasn't entirely apparent to me um, until I compared it to something else. And then I also, did some digging and found what other people were saying and some of the stuff they pointed out. I was like, oh, how did I not see that? It's like right there in your face. And it makes perfect sense, but I just never considered it. It's one of those like big picture things. It kind of flies under the radar, surprisingly, despite being a big picture thing. I kind of want to just know what works, but I know it doesn't work like that. Well, that's the thing. I found that it kind of does. There is a thing that works. And that's what I've been trying to find. And I think I'm getting there, and I think I'm really close. Obviously, the last step is just implementing it and seeing what happens and seeing if it, rings true. But I've already been kind of seeing it in action. Both on my like in my thing, but also with other people. I've sort of seen it, and it's so obvious once it's pointed out. It's so obvious once it's pointed out, but when you're kind of doing it yourself, or you're not like paying attention, looking too closely, it's easy to miss. Yeah, at some point we'll talk about it. Because I know it's late for you, and I'm still streaming. But whether it's when I stop streaming, which you'll probably be asleep by then, but either then or tomorrow, we can talk about it because definitely flew over my head. I think mainly it flew over my head because it was like that you don't want to copy someone else. Like you want to know what works, but you want to know in a way that like you can implement in like on your own. Exactly. But like yeah, you see all those videos about people telling you like this is what you want to do if you want to grow your thing, or you want to blow up or whatever, blah blah blah, or just anything really. They tell you like this is the way to do it, or this is how I do it, and it's like you don't want to copy that. You obviously want to take notes from it and see like, okay, how can I implement that, but you don't want to straight up copy someone. So I think there's sort of like a subconscious thing that your brain does where it's like, I'll take that into consideration, but I'm not going to copy you. Obviously some people do, but I think most people who are kind of just like, no, I want to kind of pave my own way. You know, I don't want to cheat. They're like, I don't want to copy anybody. So I think that kind of switch in the brain, or that little subconscious thing, is what kept me, at least, from seeing that sort of pattern that was there. And it's like, oh, you don't have to copy. It's just, there's a pattern there that I didn't really acknowledge. And now that I see it, I'm like, kind of makes sense. It kind of puts into context some of the things that I have done that have been successful. And it's like it makes more sense now. You know, I thought I knew the reason why. But it's like with this new bit of information, it's like, oh, that's probably the real reason. And what I thought doesn't necessarily matter as much. I'm speaking very vaguely. I realize that, but can't let him know my next move. Yes, yeah, balance is the most important thing. But I think with this, whatever you want to call it, revelation that I've had, I realized that, like, yeah, it's not at all like a copying thing. If you were to do it, if anyone were to do it, it's not copying. There's no one can claim this thing. It's just a pattern, and if you implement it, then you're gonna see results. You're gonna see results for sure. Can't guarantee like, oh, you know, you're gonna be like famous right after you do it, but you're going to see results. You're gonna notice a change. And I mean, within that, you still have to pay attention to like what works and what doesn't, but you're gonna notice for sure the difference, because I'm looking back at like the stuff I've done and I'm like, oh, that's why. It's like if I kept doing that, then I probably would have been in this, you know, different spot growth wise. Obviously, this is my first English. This isn't my first stream, but there's still a little bit of nerves going into it, but it's surprisingly relaxing. Mainly because I have to spend so much time focusing on the screen that I'm not really looking at chat a whole lot, or even like the display. So like I can look and see myself drawing and see like how it looks to people, but I'm not looking at it too much, because then it'll start making me self-conscious about like how quickly I'm drawing and all that stuff. But this is surprisingly less stressful than I thought it was. I thought it would feel like, you know, you got a bunch of people like staring at you while you draw, but if anything, it kind of just feels like I'm still in my room, which I am, but you know what I mean. Okay, so what I think I want to do with this is, I might need to get reference for this, but I am going to attempt to freestyle it. And if I run into a wall and realize that I need reference, then I will get reference. But essentially, my plan is to direct the eyes up here, kind of like, well, it's one of those subconscious things, but our eyes automatically are drawn to the face and then the hands. That's a subconscious thing that happens, but I want to reinforce that because there are a couple of areas here that I know right now, at least just looking at it, are focal points, and I want to control that further because I know this is a focal point for sure. I know that the face is a focal point, especially here. I know that this hand, more than this one, is a focal point. And I know that this arm is definitely a focal point. And the main reason is because of, in this case, it's a contrast thing, but it's a detail contrast. So there's a lot of like details here, here. The face has a decent amount of detail in it, even just the detail in the anatomy on the arm. So our eyes are bouncing between, well, we're drawn to contrast. So if there's like a thing with a lot of detail, our eyes are going to be drawn to the thing that doesn't have a lot of detail. You know, like if you have a face surrounded by a bunch of flowers. These are terribly drawn flowers, but you know, our eyes, despite all of the details and everything, it's going to be drawn to the face in the middle because it's an area of rest. So in this, there's like kind of a back and forth between areas of rest and areas of detail. And it's kind of like like it works the opposite way too. If there's an area that, if there's a bunch of areas of like rest and then there's one area of a lot of detail, our eyes will be drawn to that because, you know, the balance. So this is an area with a lot of detail, and so you're drawn to it because right next to it are areas of rest. You know, all up here, it's a lot of rest. This is an area of rest compared to all the details here and even here. Like how you see the sun in a sunset and not much else. Basically, yes. The sun is a focal point because everything around it is not, or there is too much around it. And so we just kind of, we're drawn to that. So I want to control the area of rest, or just the focal point. And I want the focal point to go, realistically, I mean, this arm is cool. This hand is cool. I really like this hand, but I like this hand more. So I want these sort of, your eyes to sort of go from here to here to here to here. And then maybe shoot over there. So what I'm going to do is essentially make sure that the highest areas of detail are here, leading into here. I'm going to leave this relatively like smoother, less textured. It will be detailed, but it won't be like overly textured. I'm gonna detail a lot of this. Gonna sort of leave this area here, generally up until here, kind of more on the side of like an area of rest. And then I'm going to bring detail up here, all up this way. And these areas will be the most polished. So these areas will, I'll spend more time on these areas, surprisingly, because I'll be smoothing them out, making sure that they look the most polished. These areas will be rougher, but these areas will have more details, bumps and veins and all this kind of stuff. So your eye will generally be drawn to, you know, here, here, and here. And then maybe here, if that makes sense. That's the plan. Is it gonna work? It should, just because that's kind of like an art theory thing. If it doesn't work, that's okay. I will have learned something regardless to implement into the next piece. So that's the plan. And I'm trying to get as much of that done in this stage now versus later, because I can always just, like, you know, move on to colors and everything and just start painting over everything. But I don't want to do that. I want to wait. Yeah. But first and foremost, I mean, what I've been doing is just getting all the forms in. I mean, before I start adding details, the structure has to be, you know, good and sound. So I've just been working on forms and making sure it reads correctly before I do anything else. Sounds like a plan. Yes. There are a couple areas that I want to fix up because they're not reading the way I want them to. So I'm going to do that. These are sort of minor tweaks that I'm making. And sorry that I am so, I mean, it seems so zoomed out, but that's just the way I work. Obviously the screen's a little closer for me than it will be for you, but I like to work zoomed out because I get to see the big picture. And if it doesn't read on a small scale, then it's not going to read on a large scale. It will actually be more confusing on a larger scale. So sorry, but also not sorry, because it's going to help make a cooler piece. Without apologies in terms of the viewing experience. Something about this finger here I'm not particularly a fan of. I think I know what it is. This will also help with the thumb, so I'm going to bring this in like that. Reminds me of you dating the Wicked Witch of the West? East? Whichever one is the bad one. That makes me sound like I don't know film. Were you dating a witch by any chance? Because I don't know whose hands this would remind you of. It's a little bit concerning. You didn't have to say it. Right. In quotes. You can't see right now, but I'm air quoting. Hmm. So if you trust someone who has hands like this to be your massage therapist, then there's a bigger problem there. It needs to be talked about. That is better. It's not perfect, but it's better. Strong fingers. Okay, I see the problem. It's the darkness of that. It's reading too dark. Yep, that's a lot better. This is why I like to get most of the work done in this stage, because you can work out all of the kinks here. And by the time you get to the coloring and the final details and everything, you don't, get stuck with a little problem that you could have fixed a lot earlier and have to repaint areas, because that's not fun. It's like one of the worst things when you have to like move a whole section and you've painted so many details, and then you've got to like repaint an entire area to fit the section you moved. It's a nightmare. Just trying to see if there's any other areas that I feel need work. I'm very conflicted on, and this is something that I'm probably just gonna have to end up like doing a whole nother piece for in order to fix, which I had already anticipated, just because I had plans for like different pieces to accomplish different things as far as a Venom redesign is supposed to go. When did I color select this? How long have I been working in gray? That's not good. I don't know when that happened, but yeah, so I had planned to do at least like 2 pieces in order to accomplish what I was going for with the Venom redesign. And one of the, I think, like, it's not really a problem, it's just one of the things I'm concerned with, which I had already anticipated as per my master plan. Yep. Villainous line right there. I anticipated your anticipation. One of the things that's bothering me about this piece, which, I mean, it was intentional, but he has a very regular body. As in, like, okay, well, obviously, the ribs showing like that is not regular, but I mean, as far as the proportions, to confuse your enemy, you must first confuse yourself. Exactly. I am already confused. So his proportions, like his bodily proportions, are on the more regular side. Excuse me. His proportions are more on the regular side, and that was intentional because I wanted it's odd. Like when you think of Venom, you're not thinking of like a guy who looks, like physique wise, like similar to Spider Man, or even thinner, or less athletic looking. I don't know. Um, so it's odd. It's a little bit weird, slightly uncomfortable, because you're just not used to seeing Venom like this. The closest thing to that type of Venom design is John Romita Jr. His Venom drawings were very like Venom was only slightly bigger than Spider Man, but he was still relatively buff because his Spider Man was buff. His version of Spider Man. So outside of that, we're mostly used to seeing Venom as like this really buff character. So I wanted something that felt off as far as like it's kind of regular. But the type of Venom redesign I really am going for, outside of just the uncomfortable H.R. Geiger look, is something that pushes the proportions in a way that isn't just Venom but buff or Venom but skinny. I want to do something that essentially makes you go, being a symbiote or being Venom looks uncomfortable. Looks like it would be a pain to transform into Venom consistently. Venom but slay. TikTok Venom. I'm gonna snatch his waist. Venom if his body was tea. I can't even say that without laughing. Yeah, we're gonna do snatched waist Venom next. Venom if he was a baddie is the next assignment. I'm low-key glad I'm not like famous like right at this moment, like this specific moment, because it's like I could see the clip now on Instagram and someone's like, "What is bro talking about?" And it's just a clip of me talking about Venom if he was a baddie. And they're like, "Yeah, don't support this guy. He's weird." Cancelable offense for sure. Yeah, it's up there. There are worse things. I won't be a Minecraft YouTuber, so nobody has to worry about that. But yeah, I don't want people to remember me for drawings of Venom with a snatched waist. I want to do more with these nails. At the moment, they're kind of just skin nails, if that makes any sense. And I want them to feel like they're more, like separate from the skin. I'm going to try to work on that. If my brush would work. In about half an hour, I am going to have to go and end stream. But definitely going to do more of this. If all goes well, nothing comes up, I am most likely going to just stream tomorrow. Because, like I said, I'm kind of just drawing most of the day, anyways, and it doesn't really take much for me to start a stream. It's really just a button. I can just sit here and draw stuff like Snatch Waste Venom. Um, hmm. I'm trying to go for like a. Well, first, I need to make sure the perspective on this nail is lining up with the finger correctly. Something about that is a little off. I think it's this. This would be slightly up here like that. Okay. Trying to make it like feel like the nails are like, I mean, the nails are obviously, you know, they're on top of the skin, but I want it to feel like it's like poking through. And I don't know if I can like simulate that at this stage, or if that's going to be something that I have to do like through the like painting with the colors. But I'm trying to see if I can work that in right now, because like I said, I'd like to get as much of that type of stuff done at this stage than later. How's the editing going, Kirk? That that works. Aiming for it to be 1 minute long, it's still like 4. Okay, well, I mean, you're close. I mean, I might be telling you something you already know, so let me know. But one of the things that I learned about editing videos is, you know, making sure there's like a cut every or some type of transition or something to break up the I don't know what to call it, but in order to break the silence, you know, some type of cut or transition or something every, I think it was like 10 seconds, 8 seconds, something like that. Just overlays and captions plus color grading. Yeah. Well, I think you got it. And something that I learned about like editing when I was making this video was a long time ago, but it was me reacting to like art that I had Um, it was art from a collab that I had put together. Um, this was sort of the groundwork for the collabs that I do now. Um, but I was editing it, and I realized that, like some of it, like I was trying to watch it through to see like if it played well, if there was anything I needed to tweak or change. And I was watching, I was getting kind of bored, to be honest. And I felt bad because I was like, why am I getting bored of my own, like, video, like my own stuff? It wasn't the art that the people made, it was just me. It was like boring to me. I was like, this isn't interesting enough. I was like, and I can't really, like, there's some things that I just can't change. Like, it's not like, it wasn't really like a adding in a clip type of problem to like make it more funny, or and I couldn't, like, I didn't want to go back and record another joke just to put it in the video. um but I realized that I needed to look at it from a viewer's perspective, as far as like, would I want to listen to myself talk about this thing? Like, even if I, am generally like more accepting of what I have to say, would I want to sit here and listen to me say this stuff? And what parts of it would I not care to listen to myself say? And not in a literal sense, but because if I think about it that way, then it's like, well, the entire thing, because I know it already, so why would I listen to myself say it? But just like, would I take out my time? Would I keep from scrolling to hear myself say this part that is in the video? Or would I not need it? Huh, okay, okay, gotcha. Yeah, it's tough because, like, there's that part of you that wants to keep everything in, because it's like, I feel like everything that I have to say is worthwhile. But it's not necessarily true. um, it's nice, and at a certain point, when you reach a certain, amount of viewership or whatever, or fame, you can sort of sacrifice that kind of mindset, um, because you just have a loyal fan base who just wants to at that point, then it's not about whether they would waste their time, or, well, not waste, but spend their time sitting here listening to you say this thing. You know that they want to hear you say this thing. So now it's just about you being you. I'm worrying less about edits, but yeah, in the beginning, it is kind of like, how would I sell myself to myself? And if I'm not willing to buy the product, then other people aren't either. It's kind of the Stanley philosophy, where he says, if you have a, I can't perfectly quote him, but if you have a good idea and you think it's really worth sharing, then you're most likely not the only person who also thinks that idea is cool. So go ahead and share it. But it goes the same way, where it's like, if it's an idea that you don't think is really cool or really worth sharing and could probably be cut, then there's probably a decent amount of people out there who also feel the same way. They just don't know yet because they haven't seen the video. But if you're feeling that gut reaction, then most people will probably feel the same way. Or if that sounds like a bunch of nonsense, just completely ignore everything I just said and pretend it didn't happen. Yeah, this is going in the direction I want it. It's not perfect right now, but it's definitely getting there. I like the way this nail looks. It's a little weird here with like sort of like flimsy flap of skin. I kind of like it because it's weird, but I like this more. As far as like the way it's sort of like almost seems like it's pushing through the skin in a way, and like pushing the skin out of the way to let the nail through. Kind of like Wolverine when his claws extend. You know, it's like sort of cutting open a hole that wasn't there before because he heals. I also realized that I would have benefited from a better under drawing or sketch. I had enough detail to sort of freestyle from there, but I'm realizing now the importance of like pre-planning, planning ahead, so that later on you don't have to figure everything out because that gets very boring and it makes you not want to paint or draw the thing because you realize that you're spending more time problem solving things that you didn't have to than actually like just painting the thing and making it look cool. So it's definitely something that I'll keep in mind for the next painting. Just, you know, make a clearer underdrawing or sketch to build off of so that I don't have to figure out stuff like this at this stage. I realize that like anybody who pops in to the stream, you know, if they weren't already here in the beginning or earlier, then it just looks like I'm drawing some weird fingers and I have no idea the like full context unless I zoom out. It's a Venom redesign. Probably not what you were thinking. Well, the thumbnail does have Venom's face now that I think about it. So maybe they do know. And the link I put on Instagram also had Venom. So maybe they are aware. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. Hit the 2-hour mark. So I've been streaming for 2 hours. That's cool. I think the last one was 4 hours. I'll definitely start earlier so I can stream for longer. Just today it was kind of chaotic. And I was just reminded of something that I forgot to do. Missed the last 3 minutes of what you said. Bees flew into my bedroom. Oh, first of all, hope you're okay and the bees did not get you. I was saying that I realized that, you know, if someone were to join the stream at this exact moment, they would probably think that I was just drawing some weird fingers and not really know the full context. But then I realized that I literally have Venom in the thumbnail, and also the link that I posted on Instagram has Venom. So I think it's enough for people to get the gist without me having to zoom out. People are dumb sometimes, yes. People don't read very often um, if they don't think they have to. That was one of the biggest lessons I learned from my old job. So that people will not read. They will see a sign and they will actively ignore it. Because they feel that somebody else owes them the answer. They have to get it from somebody instead of just reading the thing. Mm. That. No. Perspective is wrong. See why it's good to have a good underdrawing sketch, because you'll catch things like that. But to be honest, that was just sort of a silly mistake that I made, because when it's drawn like this, I can see the perspective and it's supposed to be like that. I just kind of misread it. So that's my fault. But yeah, I could have done a more detailed sketch and planned out this part beforehand. Could have even done like just a few contour lines just to tell me that it's going in that direction, but it happens. I can just go ahead and sort of fix that up. But yeah, this is the sort of thing that I was talking about. This is sometimes another reason for burnout. Just fatigue when it comes to drawing. Sometimes if you're not drawing effectively enough or efficiently enough, you can experience fatigue because you're now spending more time, like I said, problem solving stuff that could have been avoided than actually just drawing the thing. You know, because I'll be completely honest, I did not want to spend this much time on fingers and fingernails, but that is sort of what I get for not working that all out in the sketch. So there's really no one else to blame except myself. But it's the importance of planning as much of it as you can in the early stage, so that you can sort of sit back, relax, and just make a thing look cool. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I want to try something. Not sure how it's going to look, but I want to give it a shot. Let's see what happens if I sort of bring it up like this instead of the way I was already doing it. Another thing I learned from watching some other artists and just kind of observing their process is, not only in the sketching part, but even later on in the painting. If you get to a point where you just can kind of enjoy the painting process and not worry too much about the problem solving thing, some people enjoy that, and that's fine. I enjoy it sometimes, and sometimes I don't. It just depends. Like, I like problems solving when it's like more interesting stuff, not like simple mistakes that I could have avoided. That's not fun to me. But I just noticed like just how much like goofing around and iteration there is during the process, and it gave me a little bit of motivation to show that, like, yeah, you can still figure it out along the way. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not a bad artist if you change your mind halfway through or near the end or wherever, or if you just want to try out a different like thing. You're not bad for wanting to do that. It's just your imagination running wild. But yeah, I wanted to try that and see what that looks like. If I sort of bring the skin up in that way instead of just the sort of like pushing it back. See, the thing is, had I thought of it before I did the other fingers, that would make this decision easier. See, I like it, but that means I have to go back and change all the other ones to match it if I like it more than the current look. Or if I want to be real creative and lazy, I could just leave this one finger that way. It's also an option. And just chalk it up to variety. Decisions. Or I could do both, honestly. I could try and implement both. Let's see if, I wonder if I do this. So if I add this, like that. That looks terrible. No, we're not doing that. I don't like the look of it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave this finger with that sort of weird look to it. I think I'm going to go like this though. This one is just going to look like these other ones here. I realize that the time-lapse version of this is going to look very funny because there's going to be just like random scribbles and drawings on top of it or in the middle of it from this and me like explaining what I plan to do, but I feel like it adds some character, some interest to the time-lapse. They can see that I'm sort of brainstorming. Looks like old lady hands. Yeah. That's kind of the goal. Not that I told myself, like, yes, I want the hands to look like old lady hands, but I want them to look unsettling, kind of irregular. Gonna go now. Enjoyed it though. Thanks so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. It was nice to have some company. Otherwise, I would have been drawing in complete silence. So I really appreciate it. But I'll catch you later, and we'll definitely talk about the social media thing. Have a good night, though, and good luck with the editing. That causes problems, which is why I opted out of it. We can talk about it later, but essentially it's like a performance thing. Yeah. Toodles. The shadow should be larger. And bring it out this way. Hmm. I think that might be it for today's stream. I think we got some good progress in. Made some good strides. Definitely got some things to work out tomorrow, but they're mostly detailing things. Just working on sort of controlling areas of rest, controlling the viewer's eye, that navigates throughout the piece, and add a lot more detail to this arm here. Detail coming up the legs and the torso, towards the rib cage. Yeah, so that should be fun. Might do a little bit of, off-stream work on it. So by the time you see it again, it might look a little different from where it is right now, but yeah, this was really fun. I enjoyed it. It's good to stream again and not have those technical difficulties. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you to everybody who stopped by. Hope to see you guys again. And have a good night. Thanks for coming. See y'all later.